Japanese young people are showing off syphilis looks in TV dramas and on social media. Syphilis has become a trend in Japan. A single topic has already surpassed 200 million views. The more you watch, the more absurd it becomes. What is most shocking is that some young people have started treating syphilis infection as something worth bragging about. They post photos of symptoms, compare spots, and form groups to show off the disease. I was literally left speechless. According to Xinhua News Agency, citing Japanese media on January 5. In recent years, the number of syphilis cases in Japan has remained at a high level. Confirmed cases have exceeded 13,000 for 4 consecutive years. In 2022, the number surpassed 10,000 for the first time. In 2023, it jumped to 15,000. In 2024 and 2025, it again remained above 13,000. Two-thirds of those infected are men between their 20s and over 60 years old. All age groups are increasing. Among women, nearly 60% of those infected are in their early 20s. Exactly the group that most follows this syphilis trend. Why is this happening? There is only one answer. When a society forces people to live without dignity for too long, the body becomes the last thing left to be consumed. Many people describe Japan as a low-desire society. But in reality, desire did not disappear. It was compressed, distorted, and deformed. And that is why we can now understand this phenomenon. Why do healthy young people start treating a disease as a badge of honor? Why has syphilis spread so widely in Japan? When you look at the problem deeply, you realize this has nothing to do with subculture or alternative lifestyles. It is simply the reflection of a structural illness accumulated over time. In the end, everything comes back to the same two words: money and survival. The root of all this is hidden in Japan's history and in the country's dependence on the adult entertainment industry. Japan cannot live without this industry. This is not prejudice, it is a structural reality. You may not believe it, but this sector generates about 330 billion yuan per year. For an increasingly stagnant Japanese economy, this is a piece of meat that cannot be thrown away. That is why the country tied itself to this industry, even knowing it breeds crime and disease. The only option left is to turn a blind eye. Historically, this industry already existed during the Noro period. During the Heian period, the government even created specific institutions to tax it. In the Meiji era, in order to finance expansion, tens of thousands of Japanese women were sold to Southeast Asia for this type of work under the name of Nanyang labor. The hard-earned money of these women became Japan's first capital for military expansion. From the very root, the exploitation of women and dependence on this industry were already carved into the bones of society. Later, when the economic bubble burst, Japan fell into decline. The first to be laid off were women. Without formal jobs, only two options remained: marriage or entering industries that paid, and the adult entertainment industry was one of them. Men, in turn, were also crushed by pressure: home loans, car loans, workplace competition. Everything suffocating. And pressure always needs an outlet. Thus, the industry became an emotional release valve. Supply met demand, and the sector grew bigger and bigger until it became a national characteristic. The government claims to regulate it, requiring licenses and medical checkups. But today, more than 300,000 women work in this industry. The risk of infection is obvious. In recent years, the economy has worsened even more. In 2024, Japan's GDP in the first half of the year fell below $2 trillion. The second quarter growth rate did not even reach 1%. The number of century-old companies going bankrupt increased by 95%. Rice prices soared, and food coupons even began to be distributed. As the economy sinks, all sectors entered extreme competition, including this one. The market fell from 7.6 trillion yen in 2021 to 5.7 trillion yen in 2023. According to Japanese media, in front of Okubo Park, women began charging only 10,000 yen, not even enough to buy 2 5-kilogram bags of rice. To attract customers, in addition to price wars, many even lowered safety standards. How could syphilis not explode? It was an inevitable result. When a problem becomes too big to solve, the easiest solution is to normalize it, turn it into a trend, and remove the shame. That way, there is no need to confront it or change anything. So what you see is not just a syphilis trend. It is a complete replacement of values. When the future offers no hope and effort brings no return, at least one can still say, I had an experience. And the saddest part is that this decay has reached minors. In Japan, there is a group called Kamamachi girls. They are girls barely over 10 years old who wander the streets at night, waiting for strangers to offer them food and shelter. As long as they receive one meal and a place to sleep, they are willing to go home with unknown men. This is not a legend. The term appeared in the late 1990s. According to Japanese police data from 2024, about 123,000 cases per year involve homeless minors being taken back by authorities. Some of them are these girls. They do not do this out of rebellion. They do it because they have no way out. There are very few legal shelters, and the procedures are complicated. Staying on the streets is easier. The reasons for running away from home: family conflicts, emotional neglect, school bullying. Neither family nor school is a refuge. The only option is to escape. Many come from single-parent families with high poverty rates. After leaving home, they have no income and no survival skills. Staying overnight in internet cafes is expensive. Convenience stores are only for temporary survival. In the end, they place their hope in strangers. The internet makes this request for help even easier. A simple sentence like "I have nowhere to go tonight" quickly receives replies. Over time, this became common. Therefore, the syphilis epidemic and the emergence of Kamamachi girls are not alternative trends. They are the inevitable result of the structural collapse of a society. When a country turns the body industry into an economic pillar, pushes the weakest into despair, and erases the hopes of young people, none of this is surprising. Syphilis is only a symptom. The real disease is prolonged loneliness, decline, repression, and abandonment. A society that can only function by consuming bodies, pain, and decay will sooner or later drag all its young people into the abyss. The most sick part of Japan is not its youth. It is the entire system.
As I already said in yesterday's video, I don't believe in this comfortable narrative that these girls simply had no choice. What they really had was a problem that was too complex and a solution that was too easy. And when life turns into a maze without a map, any open door looks like an exit. When an older man appears offering fast money, immediate relief, and the promise of solving half of their problems, the decision stops being moral and becomes practical. It's no longer about right or wrong. It's about surviving without thinking too much. But surviving without thinking is also a choice that fixes today and pushes tomorrow under the rug. That is exactly why I can't treat this situation as just a social consequence, because Japan is not a country without options. I've been there. I crossed the country from end to end. In Tokyo, almost every corner has a convenience store, a restaurant, or a cafe with a "We're hiring" sign. In rural areas, small shops operate with young people selling products, working, getting by, earning little, but earning something. Decent jobs exist. They are not rare. They are not invisible. What they don't offer is status, glamour, fast money, or the feeling of instant victory. They offer routine, exhaustion, and slow construction. And slow construction is exactly what an emotionally exhausted generation no longer wants. So yes, I still believe that in many cases this path is a socially acceptable excuse, an excuse born from fatigue, hopelessness, and the feeling that trying is no longer worth it. It is easier to call it destiny than to admit it was a choice. It is more comfortable to say society pushed than to admit there was also surrender. And no, that does not turn these girls into villains. But it also doesn't turn them into characters with no control over their own story. The problem is that Japanese society turned all of this into aesthetics. Pain became a beautiful narrative, decay became a style, disease became a light topic, the body became currency. And when everything becomes a trend, no one has to take responsibility anymore. Not those who sell, not those who consume, not those who pretend they are only watching. Syphilis, in the end, is just the alarm. The fire is something else. The fire is a generation that no longer believes effort pays off, that patience brings returns, that dignity builds a future. When that belief dies, every shortcut becomes the main road, and every main road, sooner or later, leads to a place no one wanted to reach. I am not saying these girls deserve judgment, but I also won't pretend they are only passive victims of an invisible system. Because when we completely remove individual responsibility, we also remove the possibility of change. And without change, everything stays exactly the same, just with a prettier narrative to justify it. In the end, the saddest part is not that they chose the easier path. The saddest part is that society teaches that this is the only possible path. The working hard is naive. The waiting is a waste of time. That building is for the weak. And that living fast, even if broken, is better than living slowly with dignity. Now I want to know what you think. Do you believe this is a lack of choice? Or a choice for the easier path? Do you think this is only a consequence? Or also, in part, a surrender? Write your opinion in the comments. I truly want to read what you think about this. And if you liked the video, leave a like. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. And I'll see you in the next video.